Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be talking about React Native
Yeah.
and specifically some of the drama going on surrounding some frameworks.
Yeah, it's been heating up lately.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got accusations of code theft, some Twitter beef, and it all really boils down to this question of control and influence in the React Native world. So,
Yeah, like who's going to come out on top?
right, exactly. So for those of you who might be a little out of the loop on all this, let's start with Expo, which has been kind of the reigning champion for a while now. They've made building React Native apps super accessible,
Yeah.
especially for beginners.
Yeah, I mean, just so easy to get started with. And they've got all these features and services that really streamline the whole development process.
Totally. And for a while there, they were like the only game in town.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Even Simon Grimm, who, is a pretty respected voice in the community, used to recommend them exclusively. It was a similar situation to what we saw with Vercel and Next.js in web development.
Ah, yeah, that's a good comparison because there are definitely some parallels there. So Next.js became like the gold standard for building web apps, and Vercel provided all the tools and infrastructure to deploy and manage them seamlessly.
Right. And at first, everyone was like, this is amazing, so easy. But then some people started to get a little uneasy. Like, wait a minute, what if Vercel gets too much power? What if they start dictating how we build things?
Yeah, that whole too much power thing is a recurring theme in tech, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And now we're seeing those same concerns popping up with Expo in the React Native space.
Which brings us to OneJS, the new kid on the block trying to disrupt the status quo.
Yeah, they're making some bold claims about simplifying development for both web and native apps, which, that's a pretty big deal.
And even Simon Grimm has said that they have potential, so that's saying something.
Definitely. And they're doing some interesting things under the hood, too, like using Vite for bundling instead of the usual Metro bundler that React Native uses.
Okay, so Vite, for the non-technical folks out there, can you explain why that's significant?
Sure. So Vite is known for its speed and efficiency, especially in web development. And OneJS is betting that it can bring those same benefits to React Native.
Interesting. So they're not afraid to shake things up a bit.
Not at all. And they're also borrowing ideas from other popular frameworks like file-based routing from Next.js and the concept of loaders, which they seem to have gotten from Remix.
Okay, borrowed might be putting it lightly, though, right? Because here's where things get messy. OneJS has this component called OneStack, and it turns out they incorporated code from Expo Router without really acknowledging it.
Yeah. The term forking has been thrown around,
Yeah.
which basically means taking someone else's code and using it as the foundation for your own project. Now, forking in itself isn't necessarily bad, but it's generally considered good practice to give credit where credit is due.
Right, and to not pretend like you came up with the whole thing yourself.
Exactly.
And Expo was not happy about it, to say the least.
No, they were not Evan Bacon, who works on Expo. He went on Twitter and basically called OneJS out.
Yeah, I saw that tweet. OMG, he just forked Expo Router with the laughing, crying emoji. It was pretty savage.
Yeah, he wasn't holding back.
Yeah.
And then things escalated even further when the Tamagi account, which is run by Nate Wienert, the creator of OneJS, fired back.
Oh, yeah. That was brutal.
Yeah.
They called Bacon's work kindergarten level and accused him of being hypocritical.
Ouch.
Yeah, tell me about it. The whole exchange blew up on social media. And suddenly, we're not just talking about code anymore. We're talking about betrayal, ego, and the future of open source.
Yeah, it's getting intense, right? Like, this is about more than just technical differences. Now it's personal.
Exactly. And it raises some big questions about the direction of React Native development.
Like, is this going to become a winner-take-all situation?
Right. Like, will one framework dominate the landscape and control everything?
And if so, what does that mean for developers?
Yeah, what kind of choices will we have?
And will innovation be stifled if everyone's forced to use the same tools and follow the same rules?
So many questions.
So many.
And we're going to try to unpack some of them as we continue our deep dive.
We'll try our best.
But first, we need to take a closer look at what each of these frameworks actually offers.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
So stick with us because this is about to get really interesting.
Buckle up.
All right, so let's dive a little deeper into what each of these frameworks actually brings to the table, shall we? Let's start with Expo, because love them or hate them, you can't deny that they've made a huge impact on React Native development.
Yeah, for sure. They've really lowered the barrier to entry, made it so much easier for people to get started with React Native, especially those who are coming from a web development background.
Right, and their whole suite of tools and services is pretty impressive. They handle everything from building and deploying your app to providing access to native device features. It's like this all-in-one solution that takes care of a lot of the complexities of React Native development.
Exactly. And for a lot of developers, that's exactly what they're looking for. They just want to focus on building their app without having to worry about all the underlying infrastructure.
Right. It's like that classic trade-off between convenience and control.
Yeah.
With Expo, you get a lot of convenience, but you also have to play by their rules.
Yeah, you're kind of locked into their ecosystem, which for some developers is totally fine, but for others, it can feel a bit restrictive. They might want more flexibility to choose their own tools and customize things to their liking.
And that's where OneJS comes in, right? They're all about giving developers more control and freedom.
Exactly. They're saying, hey, we're not going to tell you how to build your apps. We're going to give you the tools and let you make your own decisions.
So it's like Expo is the Apple of React Native, and OneJS is the Android.
Haha. I like that analogy. Yeah, Expo is like the polished, user-friendly experience, while OneJS is more about giving you the power and flexibility to tinker under the hood.
And to be fair to OneJS, they're not just about giving you more control. They're also bringing some innovative ideas to the table, like their use of Vite for bundling, which, as we mentioned earlier, is a big departure from the traditional React Native approach.
Yeah, Vite is all about speed and efficiency. And OneJS is betting that it can make a significant difference in the performance of React Native apps.
So for our listeners who aren't familiar with the technical details, can you explain why that's a big deal? Like, why should we care about Vite?
Sure. So Vite is a build tool that's becoming increasingly popular in web development. It's known for its incredibly fast startup times and its ability to handle large code bases with ease. And OneJS is essentially bringing that same technology to the React Native world.
So basically they're saying we're going to make your React Native apps build and run faster.
Exactly. And that can be a huge advantage, especially as your app grows in complexity.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole concept of loaders, which OneJS has borrowed from the Remix framework. Can you give us a quick rundown of what loaders are and why they're important?
Sure. So loaders are basically functions that allow you to fetch data before a page or component even loads. So imagine you're building an e-commerce app with a product listing page. With loaders, you can fetch all the product data in the background while the page is loading, so that by the time the user sees the page, all the products are already there and ready to go.
Ah, I see. So it's all about improving the user experience by making things load faster and feel more responsive.
Exactly. And OneJS is clearly taking inspiration from some of the best practices in web development to try and bring those same benefits to React Native.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that all of this innovation is happening against the backdrop of that Expo Router controversy.
Right. Even if OneJS delivers on all its promises of speed, flexibility, and unified development, that incident has definitely cast a shadow over them.
It's like they've got this amazing new car with all the latest features, but there's a big dent in the fender that everyone keeps staring at.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's going to take some time for them to rebuild trust with some members of the community.
Especially after that kindergarten level comment on Twitter. I mean, that was pretty harsh.
Yeah, I think emotions got the better of them there.
Hmm.
But hey, it's the tech world. Things can get heated sometimes.
No kidding. But at the end of the day, this isn't just about hurt feelings or Twitter drama. This is about the future of React Native development.
Exactly. And the choices that developers like you, our listener, are going to have to make.
It's decision time, isn't it? Like, we've looked at both sides of the coin Expo with its ease of use and OneJS with its focus on flexibility. But the question remains, which path do we choose? Where do we go from here?
It really is a tough call because both frameworks have their pros and cons. And honestly, it depends on your priorities as a developer. What are you looking for in a framework? What are your must-haves? What are your deal breakers?
Right, because for some people, that convenience that Expo offers is paramount.
Yeah.
They just want to get up and running quickly without having to deal with a lot of configuration or setup.
Exactly. And for those folks, Expo is still a fantastic option. I mean, they've got a proven track record in a massive community. They're not going anywhere anytime soon.
But for others that need for control, that desire to have more flexibility and customization, that's going to push them towards OneJS.
Yeah, if you're the kind of developer who likes to tinker under the hood, who wants to be able to choose their own tools and really fine-tune their development environment, then OneJS is definitely worth considering.
But even then, there's that lingering question of trust, right?
Yeah.
After that whole Expo Router debacle, can we really be sure the OneJS is going to play by the rules?
That's a million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think only time will tell. Actions speak louder than words. So we need to see how OneJS conducts themselves moving forward. Do they learn from their mistakes? Do they make amends with the community? Do they demonstrate a genuine commitment to open source principles?
Right, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about which framework has the coolest features or the fastest build times. This is about something bigger. It's about the future of React Native development. and whether we're going to have a healthy, diverse ecosystem where innovation can flourish.
Exactly. And that's why this whole saga is so important. It's a reminder that our choices as developers matter. The tools we support, the companies we do business with, the voices we amplify, they all have an impact on the direction of technology.
So, yeah, maybe it's a bit dramatic to say, but the fate of React Native might actually hang in the balance.
I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. We're at a crossroads, and the decisions we make today will have ripple effects for years to come.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this challenge. Think critically about these issues. Do your research, explore both Expo and OneJS, and decide for yourself which path you believe in.
Yeah, don't just follow the hype or the crowd. Make an informed decision based on your own values and your own needs, because ultimately the future of React Native is in our hands.
Well said. All right, folks, that's it for another deep dive. We hope you found this discussion insightful and thought-provoking. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out to us on social media or leave a comment below. And until next time, happy coding.